you never know when like some like piece of wisdom will come, and I love those moments where you don't expect them and then they happen, and you just always wish like, I wish that had somehow been recorded. That happens all the time with me and my kids. Like, I wish I had my camera with me. So, okay. Okay. One thing that when I am the owner of a blab, I like to try and keep things in a way that no one is degrading anyone else or making statements like that might be imposing an opinion on someone. And so if we could think about like I statements, like I feel like this is what I'm understanding, or is this what I'm understanding, then that could be, that would be really great. I just want to keep everything with the tone of learning, because that's what I'm about. And if you're not about that, then that's cool. And, you know, we can meet on another blab or something. But in my blabs, I just want to keep it very centered around getting to another point together, going from point A to point B all together. Question: what did you feel when you were saying things about me? Let me see. Okay. So that was probably intended for Eric.
Yeah.
Okay. Trying to teach me the best. Or Momo. I don't even know what any of that is, so I'm just gonna have to give it a star because I don't know what it is. But I know it's something technical. What do you feel when you're? I think that this was addressing Eric, which is C. It looks like C. Rasiak, Paul.
Sorry, I'm feeling kind of funny now.
Why?
Silly.
What?
I'm feeling kind of silly because I don't know why.
That's okay. Why?
I feel like I'm lost in space here.
Yeah, I think we all are. And I was hoping that the cute little Bubba boy was going to come in here because I was trying to offer him a safe space. And he's not even here, but I appreciate everyone who is. You don't need to feel silly. And yes, for whoever it was that said something about me being a granola girl, I kind of am. So, but that's just me. Is there an open seat? Yes, definitely. There is one. Yes, it's open.
Yeah, there's four people can get in here. So there's room for one more.
I am Foobard, sorry. Foobard.
This Rasic guy.
That is an actual word. Yeah. Eric's on Google Plus. He's like one of the early Google Plusers. He's taught me quite a bit, but it's not locked. Yeah, no, it shouldn't be locked. Try to come in if you can. We are talking about feelings in here. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's okay.
Okay. All right. I have a hard time with that because, or I just giggle, not a hard time. I just giggle at that because when I took the Myers-Briggs test and I got evaluated, it was like a 2-hour evaluation. It wasn't just like the little thing that you take online. It's like 6 questions or whatever. I thought that I was going to be something and then I wasn't. But the one thing that I was sure of, that I was going to be a thinker rather than a feeler. I tend to try to avoid feelings. It's, for some reason, like they've always been hard for me. So. But yet,
Yeah.
and yet,
Usually.
I'm often called like the fluffy poster.
I think it's hard to talk about feelings with other people around, especially for a guy, because he will lose his like manlyhood if
Yeah.
he starts talking about feeling.
I am in Texas, C. Rasek. What's his name? What's his name?
Eric.
Eric. Yeah, I'm in Texas, Austin, in fact. He keeps asking me things I don't know how to answer. I don't know quite what to say.
You're trying to understand the point. Okay, so the point of this lab, Scott, was to make a safe space for a little guy, little 18-year-old guy, because Eric was picking on him. I love Eric, but he was picking on him a little tiny bit. And I just, was saying, I'm going to go and I hope that the little guy comes with me. But he's not here. So that's why we're all kind of like. So if anyone has an idea, you told him to go. Okay, and he left. I think I heard you say go with her, but then he stayed there. Now someone is asking for comments to be deleted. Oh, from yours, Eric? Someone's asking for those comments to be deleted? Kids. I know.
Eric,
I don't know.
why don't you just jump in here? And,
yeah, please.
To us. Maybe we can help you out, because I don't know quite how to respond to a lot of the things you've been directing at me, but I'll try.
Yeah, that would actually be a good thing, I think. I can't join this platform. It's so weird. Did you try refreshing that? Because it's totally open.
Yeah, there's only 2 of us in here now. Other folks should be able to get in here.
It says no open seat right now. I'll try clicking it. Oh, okay, try it now.
Now there's an open seat. I see it says that.
Oh, so they must have changed the default then. Whee! Okay, go ahead and join. Yay. Sorry.
That was just so odd. There was like no for some reason.
I think maybe there's a new default or something.
There might
I
be.
kept like hovering over and it was like, it looks like it's unlocked. But then I was like, well, everyone's saying this, so I'm just going to click on it. And then like all of a sudden it's like, open seat. Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome. So we were talking about feelings.
Okay, well, okay. So I was in this lab. I was in this lab earlier, and where I met this little guy. He's a little 18-year-old guy, and he was like all over the place with like words and stuff. Mm-hmm. But it didn't take everyone who was in there long to understand he's just a little guy. And so we eased up on him. So like he's just like you can't hold someone who is new to the internet or young, like you can't hold them to the same standard as someone who has been around the block a few times.
Of course.
He was a little guy, real small.
Yeah. but like he was showing enough promise that I could tell, and like the rest of the people in our room, we could tell, like, okay, given a few years and some polishing and rub, he's gonna be way cool. Well, then I see that he's joined this other lab with some big dogs like Eric, and so I'm like intrigued, and I like listen, and then like it just kind of like went all over the place, and and it felt like, you know, when you see like a big bear batting around a baby bear because it's like a rite of passage, it felt like I was witnessing that.
How old this little guy? How old is
18. He's
little guy?
18.
Oh, okay.
He's still in high school. Kristen Dreisel's not
Yeah.
a listener.
And so they were bullying him? Is that what was happening?
But I don't think it was
Beating him
meant
up.
to be in a way that was like, get out of here, kid. Like, we don't ever want to see your face around here. I think it was more like, just like, you need to toughen up a little. Because he gets very, like, and this is just from my observation from this morning, because I just met him today. It appears as though he can get pretty riled up with comments, which you have to be kind of thick. Well,
Okay, just can type it in the side if you don't want to say it.
well, then that'll bring him in here. But
Can you give me a clue?
I'm
Not really. Okay.
trying to think.
No, no,
Well, his
it's-
name
it's
is
not-
Lucas. I'll say his name is Lucas. And
I don't know him. Okay, sorry to interrupt.
okay, no, that's fine. Like, I mean, I totally invited him. Like, I made this for him, so hopefully he'll join at some point. So I don't need to be like speaking about someone without, you know, like behind their back or without their knowledge. This actually seems pointless. Yeah, it might be a little bit.
Yeah,
Well,
Christian talks
it's-
about me behind my back
not
all the
like-
time.
I do. I talk about
it's not-
Trump all the time.
It's not pointless. We're just trying to address a problem that's a lot deeper rooted than I think we're able to completely solve all at one time.
Oh, completely.
Because-
Yeah,
because-
I mean, yeah.
Because we're around an issue that's between human beings, and human
Yes.
beings are complicated.
What issue is this, Matthew?
Cyberbullying, I guess, is the issue.
if they really
Cyberbullying
if they
and
really wanna
bringing
get
new
deep,
people in. Like,
The issue is really just negativity and the instigation of negativity in general. I mean,
yeah.
I wasn't here for it, but you know, we all have this thing called a brain, right? And we all don't know how to master it very well. So it's easy for us to get, dude, are you 12? No, I'm not 12. It's easy for us to get mastered by our minds if we don't have the awareness of it. So
Yeah, and that's the
Caesar,
thing is there is
instead of guessing, why don't you just ask him how old he
Yeah,
is?
why don't you ask him how old he is?
By 20 questions here.
It's like hit or miss, you know.
you see, that's an interesting thing, right? So you think that I was making a point. See, instead of being direct and asking me how old I was, you were guessing with the questions, right? But I mean, this is a deep-seated issue. I don't know. I think it might. A lot of it might be like. A lot of it might be just an issue of. Wait, so you think the age is important, right? You think the age is what's important about somebody, but really, it's not the age. It's deeper than that.
Yeah.
It's maturity. Up there, getting deeper now.
I have kids that my own children teach me things on a day-to-day basis that I'm so grateful for, and that I wouldn't have even thought of in the same way. Like, we can all teach each other. It doesn't matter about age. It matters about listening and being humble and being willing to make changes.
Yeah.
How old are your kids, Kristen?
I have 6 of them. The oldest is 13, and the youngest one is going to be 5 on the 4th.
My goodness, what a handful.
Yeah, they're with Daddy right now. Unfortunately, we're separated. So.
Well, you know, I think that I kind of agree with Matt, and I kind of disagree in a little bit. I think that it is about maturity in part, but I also think and I'm painting with a wide brush here intentionally, but I also think that age tends to reflect maturity. Now, that's not necessarily and always true. There are people that are, far more mature than their physical age would let on. But I do think that when we see people on here that are younger, of course, as I get older, that number keeps climbing. But as we see people here that are younger, I think there is a sense in which younger people are still in the formative stages in terms of kind of forming a self-identity and who they see themselves as, and because of that, I think sometimes they are more susceptible to people that come in and to bully and who try to take charge and who try to push people around. I think there is a tendency to, when that happens, to think that it means that there's something wrong with the person who's listening to it, as opposed to, I think when you get much older, you've been around a number of assholes in your life, you finally start to come to the realization, this is not about me, this is about the person that's the asshole. And it's a little bit easier to sort of dismiss out of hand, so to speak. So when Kristen, calls me all names, I just ignore her.
One of my favorite analogies recently I've been reading about habits. And in the book, that says the one root of every single problem is the mind movie that we play in our heads that doesn't match reality. And when you're a kid and you're 2 years old, you don't have the capability and the awareness to understand abstract ideas, and you can't really understand that there's a reality and that there's this part inside your head that wants to shape reality. So the journey that we all take, I guess, when we age, like you said, that you're right, as we age, we tend to be more grounded in reality because we have experiences and we gain wisdom from those experiences. But there are some people that journey from their mind to their heart, they never make that journey. They never completely make that journey.
They never grow up?
No, they grow up, they age. But
I didn't mean it that way, but I meant it sort of like in the Peter Pan way, right? There are some people that sort of keep that naivete into adulthood and never really know how to socialize correctly.
They never step outside their childish mind. Their childish mind runs their whole life. The mind is a great servant and a terrible master.
Ooh, that's what? There's the title of Matthew's next book.
I remember. I think the first comment
I
ever made to Matt, like in a blab, like over in the side chat, was like, "How old are you?" Because I was so impressed. Like you're just like, you have great wisdom.
Yeah, I don't know what it is from. It's probably just from my investment and doing things, and it's the awareness that I've cultivated, I guess.
But I tend to think that, and I don't know, this is that argument that, nurture and nature, we're never going to really get a good handle on, maybe. But I do think that that nature is a bigger component than we realize. I think there was a study a long time ago, and it didn't have anything to do with this directly, but there was a study where they looked at people that were gang leaders in New York City, specifically the leaders of the gangs. And they found that at a fundamental level, they had basic personality traits, and they were the same personality traits as CEOs of corporations, who were considered respectable. Yeah. So they both sort of had this natural inclination, and it just got channeled depending on their environment. So with some kids, it got channeled to gangs and to street life, but they still found themselves at the top of the pecking order there. And then the same with the CEOs who maybe got channeled into education and business. They also found themselves at the top of the pecking order. But I tend to think that there's a lot to sort of our natural inclinations that I don't know, for some reason, it seems that there are some people who are more inclined to be analytical in terms of the world that they're living in and tend to be able to connect the dots better. And then there are other people who just, this does not seem to be an ability that is either available to them or one that, certainly it's not one that comes easily to them. And I think that comes out in Blab. I think it comes out in discussions, in logical discussions or philosophical discussions, that there are some people who can handle these discussions, even where people disagree, and can treat and enjoy the discussion for what it is. And then there are other people that just are very concretely minded. They don't deal with abstracts very well. And for them, I think it's much more difficult to be involved in those discussions without losing sort of emotional control at some point if somebody disagrees with them. Yeah. That was a long sentence. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I agree with you. I do think, though, I'm done seeing the world in black and white because the black and white mentalities are so destructive to me because they simplify things and they don't cause you to think complexly about things. So I see in terms of spectrums now, like the whole extrovert-introvert thing, it's a spectrum. There's an introvert spectrum, there's an extrovert spectrum. You're either you're like one makes the existence of the other. It's not opposites. Like if one were to disappear, the other would disappear as well. It's like the North and South Pole, right? You can't have a North Pole without a South Pole. Well, it's the same thing with everything else. We think that you can't have a crest of a wave without the trough of a wave. They both make each other possible. So I do think seeing things in a complex way is really, really important. Yeah, well, it seems funny, right? But think about it this way. Your body is a miracle of harmony because there are organisms inside your body fighting diseases from occurring inside of your body. That war inside your body makes you possible. Think about it that way. Disharmony at a lower level of being creates harmony at a higher level of being.
I think that there's truth in what you're saying, and especially in terms of spectrum. I think, and we're sort of scratching the surface of that. So, right, in the last maybe 5 to 10 years, we've sort of embraced this notion of gender fluidity as an example, where I'm not talking about your physical attributes, but rather that there are propensities for behavior that exist all the way across that spectrum, from what we would consider to be extraordinarily very masculine, very testosterone driven, to extremely feminine and maybe I don't want to say emotionally driven, but emotionally driven. Okay. Yeah. And I think that we're finally coming to the realization that to be a man or to be a woman doesn't necessarily mean that you take all of your properties come from the same end of the spectrum. And we're starting to realize that there are people that can be, for example, they're males physically, but they may be actually more toward the center of the spectrum as a whole, that they have equal parts of male and female tendencies. And we're starting to get there, but I think it's going to be a long time before we settle on that. We're starting to strip away duality. We're starting to understand that duality is an invented abstract construct. You know, like we just invent it. We invent duality. Like the moment you like put a label on a spectrum, you've given existence to each end of the spectrum with the label that you've created. And that goes with anything. It goes with identity. It goes with the whole labeling of time. And that's just the way our brains work. Our brains are analytical. There's a focused consciousness that labels, and then there's an awareness, thinking and awareness. Those are the two dimensions, really. There's the mind, and then there's the awareness behind the mind. And when you label everything, you can sort of lose control of that ability to cultivate the awareness of what's really going on. I kind of think, and maybe this is just maybe we don't actually disagree here, but maybe it's just a matter of abstract, of how far we're abstracting, right? I'm definitely a determinist, so I tend to talk about the mind or consciousness as simply a function of the physical brain. That even though we can divide up the physical brain into component pieces, it is ultimately, our consciousness is dependent on the physical brain for its existence. And so I looked at now, and the reason I mentioned that is because you kind of talked about this, the analytical portion of the brain, then you talked about this other sub-level, if you will, to the brain. And that's kind of where I'm kind of fishing here, because I agree with you. It's easy I abstract it that way myself a lot of times when I talk about it, but I think sometimes it hides the truth that we are our physical brain. It makes it seem. Do we have something to? Are we going to bump into each other here?
I don't think we are. I don't think we are the brain, because we are consciousness in the form of the brain. Because how about think of it this way: the mind, consciousness needs thinking, right? But thinking does not need consciousness, because it's possible to be awake and not be thinking. So we are not the brain.
I don't believe it's possible to be awake and not thinking.
Really?
Yes,
I think it's possible. Have you ever had a moment where you've been so present that there's been no mind noise and you've been in the present moment?
Well, and I think here's where we're going to have a definition of terms. When I say thinking, I'm not only referring to conscious thought. Okay, so what I'm referring to, let me try it this way: any thought that a person has, doesn't matter whether it's just a random, ooh, that flower looks pretty, or whether it is a thoughtful, concentrated decision-making process. anytime we have a thought, unless we're going to argue for a disembodied mind, every time we have a thought, it is the result of a chemical, electrical set of occurrences that happen in our physical brain. If I take the brain away, there's no mechanism for thinking, for thought of any kind. If that's the case, then no matter what abstract level we talk about the mind in, like from a psychological perspective, ultimately anything that we think is the result of an electrical impulse or a chemical state in our brain. Therefore, we, in every sense of the word, are our brain.
How do plants exist? Then how does life exist outside of the brain?
Well, but I think that there's a difference, right? And this is the thing. I think that there is a difference between saying life and saying consciousness or thought or awareness. So certainly anything can be alive. That's a whole nother discussion. I would argue that in itself is sort of a veiled concept. But yes, a plant can be alive, right? A cell can be alive. A worm can be alive. Okay. But all life, what is life? All life is a collection of functions. And we have grouped them and said, if something has these functions, we call it alive. But there is not something there that we can point to and say, there's life. There it goes running across the street. Life's not a thing. It's simply a collective noun for a group of functionality. So while the plant can be alive, I'm not saying, and I don't think anybody's arguing, but maybe, I don't think anybody's arguing that plants have awareness or consciousness or self-identity.
They do.
Well, well, wait a minute. That's an assertion, but based on what?
Well, based on the assertion that we're all stardust. And
that doesn't mean that they're conscious, does it? It doesn't mean that they're aware.
It's a degree of consciousness.
Well, there's an assumption there.
Okay, so look at dogs. Dogs have a degree of consciousness that we do. They don't have as complex of a brain, but they're still in the present moment, and they're still able to ground themselves in that moment, and they're still conditioned based off of their past, right? Cats are the same, fish are the same. These creatures all are a degree, of consciousness.
Yeah, but see, I'm not sure I entirely agree with that. And now we can define consciousness in such a way that is true. But even if we do define it that way, all right, let me just grant this so we can get over this hump. Let's grant that they're all conscious on some end of the spectrum. Their consciousness is still an emergent property of their physical brain. That consciousness doesn't exist in a vacuum. It can't exist in the absence of a physical neurological system. Unless we're going to argue for a disembodied mind that just kind of hangs around in the air, sort of like a ghost or a phantasm or something of that nature. I mean, I think I don't know of any neurobiologist or neuroscientist who argues for a disembodiable mind.
Yeah, it's not
okay.
Not disembodied.
Okay.
There has to be some content, right? There has to be some.
So it is dependent, right? So the consciousness is dependent on the physicality of the brain. And therefore, any thoughts that we have are the result of activity in that physical brain, right?
Then where do thoughts come from?
They come, I don't know. I think I see what you're asking. You want me to explain the mechanism by which the physicality of the brain produces our awareness of our own thought process. I can't answer that. But I can say that it seems demonstrably true at the moment that it is the result. It is an emergent property of the physical brain. And since there would be no way that we could have a set of there's no way that we could control our thoughts that is meaningful. In other words, I may get, for example, maybe I get angry, and then all of a sudden I say to myself, gee, I need to calm down. But that thought of saying, gee, I need to calm down is again the result of some action that has already happened in my physical brain. There's no way to get behind the 8 ball, so to speak. There was an old philosophical adage that man does what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills.
I do think though that there's awareness outside of the mind, because if I'm able to notice my thoughts happening, then I'm not my mind. If I was my mind and I was that tool, then I would not be able to control that tool. But the fact that why
couldn't you notice? Why couldn't your noticing of your thoughts be part of the physical functioning of the brain?
It is part of the physical functioning of the brain. Okay. But there's an awareness outside of the brain that's able to point that out. The process is happening, but if you were exactly your mind, then you would not be able to see your thoughts or calm your thoughts. You would not be able to calm your mind and let it calm and not have any thoughts. There are people that can go hours without thinking anything. They can ground themselves in reality and look and be in the present moment and not have a single thought for hours. And that comes through meditation. The ability to change the space between the moment you make a judgment.
But I would argue that that their process of doing this is also simply a result of their physical brain.
It is.
Okay. So then when we say that there's something,
just because something's a result of your brain doesn't mean you are it.
No, I think it does.
No.
In the sense that if I take my computer, right, a much more simple model, but if I take my computer and I give it a program to run, and it's running this program, okay, simply because it's running a program does not imply. Let's suppose that I could give it enough programming in a simple sense to be able to see what its next instruction is going to be, okay, before it actually executes it. The fact that I give it that ability through programming doesn't mean that there is something external to the computer that is not the computer's programming. In other words, it doesn't create another.
You push the button. You gave it the programming.
Right. Okay. So we have the programming naturally. Okay, let's say we've developed this brain over millions of years, or billions of years. How far we come back to human life, or life in general. So this process has been one that has been tweaked and modified by nature for many, many years. The fact that there is not a human at the other end who pushes a button is irrelevant. What I think is relevant is that as it functions from data, it creates everything that we are aware of. And so we are that machine. It creates not only the analysis of the data that we receive from our senses, but it also creates that portion of us that then looks at that analysis of that data. It creates a model of the external world that we maybe react against internally before we express something externally. Everything that we experience is a result of a chemical electrical process over which there's no meaningful sense to say that we have any measure of control. The only control that we see expressed is simply a result of that same complex program that's running simultaneously. So we are, I think, automatons in a very real sense.
I don't know, man.
It's food for thought.
it's like then how come I'm able? I don't know.
So do you have a pen or pencil in front of you? Do you have a pen and pencil in front of you, or something on your desk? If you were to pick this thing up, if you were to pick it up and then kind of mull over for a moment, am I going to put it down on my left side or on my right side? Okay. And you can mull it over for as long as you like, but at some point, right, you're going to come to a decision.
Yeah.
Okay, great. You did it. You perceived that as a thought. You perceive this as making a choice, all right, at some point at the end of that process. But I would argue that you only perceived it that way because that is based on however your brain weights different factors. That's what your brain basically told you to decide. The decision was a result of something that happened in your brain. It couldn't be something that happened apart from the physicality of your brain, because then we're arguing for a disembodied mind. So it has to be something that occurs strictly as the result of a mechanical process.
Then how come I can, if it's a part of the brain and it's something I'm in control of, sure, the process does happen in the brain. That's what allows me to move my hand. But there's an awareness that's cultivated outside that's able to make that decision. It is a result of the brain, but there's awareness outside of that is able to create.
But I would argue that, yes, I think I get what you're saying. But I think that awareness is also nothing more than the result of the physical brain. In the same way that in other words, I think what you're doing is we're abstracting different parts of the brain and saying, well, while this part is doing that, there's another part that's doing something else, and there's another part that makes me aware of what's going on. But ultimately, the fact that it has different departments, if you will, still doesn't change the underlying fact that our consciousness is created as an ongoing process of physicality, of physics, chemistry, electricity in the brain. And therefore, there's no mechanism to get behind the eight ball, to step outside of myself and influence my physical brain in a way that doesn't require my physical brain.
Yeah. Yeah,
and so that's kind of what I mean when I say we are our brain. I just mean that all of the things we perceive, all the things we do, in a very weird way. I mean, it's weird for me too. That
What about the
I
people
am-
that don't have that awareness, though? Like, what about the people that are so heavily
Okay.
conditioned that they live on reactive mode their whole life? Because there are people like that. Like, there are people in here that, like, when we think about criminals, we think about people that are heavily conditioned in ways that they are reactive to everything about them having, like, they always had a choice. They always had another choice. What if they didn't have a choice? What if they were so heavily conditioned that they actually just react to everything in life and they never actually make decisions?
Well, I would think,
Like-
and I know it sounds like I'm kind of I'm on repeat here, but I think that those people, or the way when we look at how those people behave, they don't. You're right. They don't have a choice, but no more than we have a choice. So even though we may appear to be more thoughtful because our brain maybe takes a longer amount of time, or maybe it better handles data or better analyzes data, but nonetheless, at the end of the day, we are as much an automaton as they are. Now, their physical process maybe doesn't work right for some reason. Maybe they were born with a problem. Maybe they've got a tumor. Maybe the amount of data and experiences that they've experienced over their life has caused. I mean, I do think that our brains get reprogrammed all the time by external data.
Yeah, rewiring.
Right.
They get rewired.
Exactly. So our brain learns to weigh things and evaluate things differently depending on the set of experiences that we've had. But in the end of the day, still just an organic computer.
That seems so contradictory. Organic computer.
Well, it does.
Yeah.
It seems contradictory to our, and I agree. It seems very contradictory to our experience, right? Our day-to-day experience is that I am me. There is a real self here. I can make decisions. I have a free will to do, what I choose or not choose to do. But again, I think that's more a cultural overlaying, because I think we are very uncomfortable with the notion of being on an automaton, and it does bring up other questions, right? So that, the person kind of this is sort of like the Matrix and the rabbit hole here. The person who says, well, if we don't have a choice, if we're automatons, then how can we blame somebody for robbing a 7-Eleven if he had no choice? And of course the answer is, well, we can't help but blame him. That part is also automatic. In the same sense, he had no choice, neither do we, in terms of how we react to it. I kind of think of it sort of like, imagine a player piano, but a player piano that has the ability to subconsciously, if you will, anticipate the next note it should play, but it never quite realizes that these notes are already holes on a piece of paper. So as the piano's going, he's thinking to himself, he's deciding to himself, I'm going to play a B flat next. And he plays it. And he goes, well, I could have picked a C, but the reality is he couldn't, because B flat was what was punched on the paper. So it caused the change in his brain that resulted in a decision, but ultimately he could never have chosen differently. Oh, not robots. There's Tim. Yeah, hi, Tim. I'm sorry, too. Tim and I have gone around on this.
Magical, though. I do think that the universe's ability to contemplate its own existence is what's magical about all of it, because that's like the ultimate aim. And yet our species is the most insane species of every species on the planet. Like, if you really think about it, like, how can dogs sit on the ground for 12 hours straight and be so present and so in the moment that, like when my favorite example I love to explain is when two ducks get in a fight, right? They fight each other over territory and then they shake it off and then they're fine. When humans are dwelling on the past and saying, man, that duck was really, really angry, and their emotional state continues and they can't let that go. So our greatest tool also makes us the greatest insane species on the planet in terms of how complicated we are.
I think so. I think that again, I'm speculating here a little bit, but I think that humans probably are the only, or one of a very few species who can conceptualize and dwell on the past and the future.
Yeah.
Whereas I think animals do very much live in the moment. So even though your dog is happy when you come home from work, he's happy because you came home. In other words, his programming is such that when you open the door, he exudes happiness. But I don't think that he sits there all day kind of with this thought process going, oh my God, it's almost 5 o'clock. I wish it would get here, so Matthew could get home. I don't think the dog has those type of thoughts where he actually can think about
probably not.
the future in concrete terms.
Yeah, I do think so too. They don't have as much of a sense of time and heavily conditioning as we do. They're very, very tuned to react. But in a way though, that makes them more peaceful than us because they're more in the present moment than we're able to.
Right. They're not freaking out about what might happen, and they don't have regrets, so they're not sitting around worrying about what they did wrong yesterday. Damn, yesterday I peed on the carpet. I'm real sorry. They don't think about it in those terms. There's a book. I'm trying to see if I have it here. I do. It's a little bit off topic, but it's well, there's two books, and this one's pretty good. But I think you might enjoy that if you ever get a chance.
Absolutely. Yeah.
A Brief History of the Philosophy of Time. And you can get a Kindle too. It's like how much is it? I'm looking at it. Where's the price on there? No, it's not. It can't be very much, but it's a great book. It goes back to Aristotle and pre, and looks at how humans have viewed the concept and notion of time, and how they've tried to explain it. Through the ages, and it's for me. It's a fascinating. I'm like my seventh read of that book. I keep making more notes as I go through.
It's our attempt at organizing everything and organizing everybody together.
Yeah, but I just have to bring this up because I think it's so great. So Chris is saying, but in the end, it doesn't even matter, and words can talk us away from stuff and create reason. And I can't say that I can perfectly interpret what he's saying, but I resonate with the words that he's using. In the end, what is going to matter, really? All this thinking about thought or what we actually did to make a difference?
It does matter. Here's how it matters, because I had that same question when I first started going through this. And it took me a while to kind of to realize something, because I thought of that too. I thought about, for me, it was like, okay, this is like, are we in the Matrix? I can't prove I am, I can't prove I'm not, so who cares? But I don't think it's like that. I think, and here's why. I think while we cannot change the truth of what we are, I think realizing or accepting the truth of who we are or what we are changes our own internal programming, in that now I have an awareness of a new piece of data. That awareness actually changes how I react to certain things. So, there, not always, but there are times, for example, where I will be arguing with somebody or we'll have a heated argument, or some idiot cuts me off in traffic. Every now and then I'll stop myself from getting angry with the realization, I'm going, okay, well, they can't help what they did because they're just automatons too. And that's weird. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens sometimes. But it never happened before I had that realization. Yeah. So I think sort of awareness of that actually does manifest itself in weird ways.
Yeah, you've cultivated our ability to contemplate our own existence. So wonder, Aristotle says wonder is the beginning of philosophy, and our ability to step outside of that, as you said, and just be able to wonder and cultivate that awareness does help us become more aware and a better species, because we're able to not be, I guess, more of an automaton than most of us are, because it's easy to react and it's easy to go into an emotional state,
Yeah, I think, I have a lot of friends, some of them agree with me, some of them over the years still don't agree with me, and that's okay. But I think it's worthwhile to discuss the ideas, regardless of where we end up at the end. I think this is one of the things, people always talk about terrorism, things like this, right? And you always hear people say, well, education is the answer. But I think they're missed about a little bit, because they always talk about it in terms of going to college, going to university. I'm like, well, Bin Laden had, plenty. He went to England. He had great education. I don't think it's education in that sense. I think it is education in the humanities. I think it is education in how to treat people and how to get along. I think it's that education that we actually need more of, in the home and when kids are growing up and so forth, so that they, so that there is a sense that when you grow up, that this is simply not the proper way to go about changing things. And, and I'm not arguing. I think there's a lot of things that need changed, and I'm okay with that. But I think, if we're going to live together at all and have a functioning society, then we need to agree that there are certain ways to go about that, and then there are certain ways that are just not acceptable.
Yeah.
Eh.
It's complicated.
It is.
It is complicated. It's so complicated. And we make it complicated. That's another thing. We make it really complicated.
Well, happily, I'm getting up there with Paul, so I only got to worry about this for a few more years, and then I'm done. I'll pass the torch. Somebody else can
yeah,
solve the problem.
Nature's self-awareness is sort of a game worth a candle. You know, it's just
getting up there with me, huh?
Well, I'm not quite there yet, Paul. I'm just kidding.
You're down there. You're down there.
I'm down there. I noticed today. What's her name? Natalie Cole. She died, and so did the guy who played on. Oh, crap. Sorry, senior moment. Now I can't remember. Okay, never mind. But 2 actors died today, or she's a singer and 1 actor. What the hell was his name? Well, never mind. Yeah,
I haven't been following.
I have to check the entertainment section here again. Yeah. Oh, I know who it was.
Totally off the news.
It was Trapper John from MASH.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah, he's 82. Yeah, Tim, the guy from MASH, exactly. I didn't realize he's 82, and it really makes me feel old now.
We just gotta, in society as a species, we just have to wake up. I think that we haven't cultivated enough awareness. What's up? Oh. What's up? But I think I just it's interesting to me. If I could like find any point in history, I'd want to like know the point in history when our minds became more complex than our ability to handle them. Like, at what point did we wake up? At what point did we wake up to the fact that our minds are complex? Because somehow our mind's cultivation sped up so fast that it was too fast for us to understand its development. Is it because was there a point where it passed us, or have we never caught up to it?
I don't know.
Kind of what I know.
I wonder linguistically, is this at the point at which the word "I" came into the vocabulary, that people actually began to self-identify as a being, as something? I don't know. That unfortunately probably one of those questions we will never answer.
Yeah.
What did Tim say? If Bin Laden was an atheist, would his life have been different? That's one of those questions that I can only. But I think it would have been different if he was a Methodist too, and it would have been different if he was a Catholic, and it would have been different if he was a Jew. I think no matter what he was, it would have implied a different set of circumstances growing up, and that ultimately probably would have produced a different person. It would have produced a different person. I do think another important point to make is the idea that people, like, if people don't realize that they're a human being and they think of themselves as something more or something less than every other human on the planet, there's a sense of separation in that sort of mentality. And that's a dangerous thing, because that makes people feel alone. And when you're alone, you can feel hostile because you feel different. And that can lead to a lot of separation and creation of violence and disharmony. But here's my favorite little question of the day. Because you're probably the only person I've not asked this, Matthew. So I'm gonna redump all my analogies and metaphors on you now. Okay. So there's a guy, and this guy has, futuristic a little bit. This guy has a cloning machine, but the clone he creates it happens instantly. Okay, creates a full size adult clone. Okay, guy got zero.
With him.
Okay,
of himself.
Himself, and it creates it right down to the subatomic level, a perfect exact replica at the point in time he pushes the button. Okay. Now, this guy, before he does anything, he goes out, gets a shotgun, walks down the street, knocks on a random door, kills everybody in the house for no particular reason, gets on his cell phone, even calls the police and says, "Hey, I just murdered somebody, come to my address," gives them his address, walks back down the street to his house. Just as the police pound on the door, he gets in the cloning machine and he pushes the button, and it produces an identical clone with subatomic, all his memories, everything intact. So the clone actually thinks he's the original. He thinks the other guy's the clone, okay? They both think they committed the crime. Who do the police arrest when they come in? Would you arrest both of them and jail both of them?
Well, if they find out that he cloned himself.
But how do they identify the clone?
Well, see, that's the challenge. They probably take him to a lie detector test.
But you can't
And then-
because the clone has the same memories. He's exactly the guy, right down to the subatomic level. All his
Well, no,
right,
he's not
right.
exactly. He's not exactly the same. He's not exactly the same guy though, because he murdered the guy and then he cloned himself.
Right,
So the
but
guy,
he-
the guy
but the
that
guy-
murdered the clone,
But the clone thinks he did the same thing.
right?
'cause
But,
he's got the
he
same-
didn't. See,
Right,
that's there.
But
It is.
how do
There's
you?
the illusion.
But how do you decide which one is which?
You choose the one that actually murdered.
But how do you know which one actually murdered?
They do it. So wait. He murdered the guy. Then he cloned himself, or he cloned him before.
Well, he murdered some random family,
And
then he
cloned
came back to the house and created a clone of himself.
Well, the guy that made the clone.
But which
that's
guy
the-
is that? But
guy
you're the
that pushed the button.
you're
The
the
guy that-
police. How do you know which guy this is?
I don't know who. The only thing I can go off is who hit the button to make the copy.
But they both think they hit the button.
But who really hit it?
How do you
That's
know? You don't
what
know.
happened.
You weren't there.
Right.
That's
You
my
weren't
point.
there.
So you're the police and you show up. Who do you arrest?
Well, what if they interview both of them? They're both going to say that they did it.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
But
And they'll both fail. And they'll both fail the lie detector test. And they both have the same fingerprints. And they're both wearing the same clothes. And they both have identical. Their entire memory and lives are identical as far as they're concerned. So do you? So the question here is: do you put them both in jail?
probably
Is that okay? So even though we know one guy didn't do anything, we put him in jail anyway.
yeah. I guess.
Really?
I
Okay.
don't know.
Well, no, okay, because there's a second part here coming. Okay, so if we do that, and if we say that that's justice,
I'm crazy.
what happens when we get to the place where we can know that you're going to create a crime next year? What happens when we get to the place that we can do a scan on your brain and say you are likely to commit a crime next year? Do I arrest you in advance?
I don't think so. I don't think we'll ever get to that point because the opportunity for people to change and people to improve is always open, and you can't predict the future. You can't
Okay.
completely. You can't predict it. I mean, prison to me is something that I've thought about recently is when we have somebody that's very, very unconscious and not very present and aware, how do we make that person improve? Right? It's to do the hard. It's to do the hard thing. Hold on. Let me
make one quick statement, then I'm gonna leave. I believe that we should live in a world, and luckily we do, that let's say I rape 10, 20, 30 children, I kill 50 billion people, all right? I should not go to jail until I have been proven to be guilty, and I should remain innocent until, forever, until I've been proven to be guilty, whatever the circumstances are. I just entered the blab. I don't know what the exact topic was, but
Okay.
no one should.
Well, yeah, of course. You should be proven guilty before you go to jail.
All right, that's all I wanted to hear. Right, take care.
Okay.
Peace, man. And does I know. I mean, he's a really guy. He's a very smart guy. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, it makes sense to be proven guilty, right? But in that situation with the two clones, right? If they're both, if only one of them did it, and how do you prove? See, that's the thing, though. I think we'll come very close. I think we'll come very close to replicating the human brain, but I don't think it will be anywhere near as perfect and complex and wonderful as an actual born human being. I don't think we'll ever perfectly replicate it. I don't think we will because it's taken millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of years for this to develop. I don't think we'll be able to do it.
Well, I can only say that by quoting Bill Gates, who says, nobody will ever need more than 16 mega RAM.
I don't know if we'll ever be able to replicate it because.
Hey, Mo.
Yo, where you heading? Where you always heading behind the camp, man? Just be on front.
What's that?
Never mind. I'm sorry.
Oh, I had myself muted. Everyone wants to see your beautiful face.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like
It's
probably
not-
one of the
there you
most
There you go.
Common.
I like this.
comments.
This is my thing, man. I hide behind here. Someday I'm gonna sell my face to charity, right? You get to pay $1 a minute to see me on cam.
What I think you
donate the
really
money to
ought to
charity.
do is
$1
you're
a
not taking
minute?
advantage
But, like,
of your opportunity. You should have
so
to your
have you
wife's
guys- so-
blankets.
So have you guys
$1
seen
a
like have you
$1 a
seen,
minute, Mo. Oh,
have you seen like the have you seen The Walking Dead?
No,
You guys watch
those-
The Walking Dead?
I've not, but my wife watches it all the time.
You don't
So
have
there's
nothing.
a scene in there where they have like a bad
You ain't
guy,
nobody.
and this is what reminded me of. It reminded me of what we do with people that commit crimes, and it's easier, right? It's easier to execute somebody instead of making them change, right? So Morgan was a really, really messed up, insane, and this guy took him in and changed his perspective and made him more moral and made him like enjoy life, think all life is precious. And then at the end, they want to kill off this one guy, but Morgan decides to secretly keep him and try to like talk him out of it and keep providing him the opportunity to change. It's easier to execute somebody than it is to bring them into the present moment and make them suffer and always give them the opportunity for change. So it's like, what's the harder thing to do?
Stop being gay, bro. Shut the fuck up. Stop being gay. Go to war and stop being gay. Pay for your bills. Shut up. What the fuck is wrong with you, man?
Are you on another blab?
No, I'm the same lad that I was talking to this guy, Matthew, and fucking Cake.
That's enough of that.
Yeah, I did that, by the way, just in case Kristen's wondering. No,
But,
sorry.
But it's harder to give people the consistent opportunity to better themselves, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. Do people really change? People do. People do change. It just takes time. It takes suffering. It takes them believing in things. And you look like someone who believes in God.
I think it's the crew cut. You got the top button, man.
I believe in
Okay.
I believe in the universe. That's my
Okay.
that's my God.
I think, you know, it's the reason I asked. The reason I thought of asking the clone question,
It's a
though,
great
is
story.
it's kind of to what you just said, though, right? Because I had to think about that for a while too. I thought, well, actually, I think in the end, what I would do, right, would be to arrest one of them, and it wouldn't really matter who it was if they're identical. So I arrest one of them, and then I take the other one, and I tell him that he's really the clone. Because if I can convince him that he's really the clone and he didn't really do it, then I've already gone 9/10 of the way toward changing him as a person.
Good, yeah.
And so I arrest, but then again, maybe the right answer is not to arrest any of them, but to take them away separately and tell each of them they're the clone, and then just and let them both go. I think there's a question there, though, and this is
Well,
kind
that's
of
interesting. Maybe you lie to them and you say that we got the
Yes.
real guy, and you guys are both clones.
Yes, exactly. And then
That's the
and then
only-
after a little therapy, right? We kind of convince them all these thoughts that you've had are not real. They're really the other guy's thoughts, and kind of as a way of brainwashing you almost, and kind of cleansing you and getting to start over again.
So you think you are Jesus?
I know I'm Jesus. He had
I'm
beautiful
Jesus.
long white hair like I do.
We're all Jesus.
There we go. I think hope Kristen comes back here. I think that
Yeah, it's refreshing.
this is one of those things about the criminal justice system too. I think I have two weird views. One's maybe not as weird as the other. I don't think the state should ever have the right to execute somebody. Period. End of story.
Yeah.
I do think so, and this is kind of the reverse side of this, which is weird because we're squeamish about this, and God only knows why. I do think, however, if we know that we cannot help somebody, we just either don't have the technology, we don't have the knowledge, we cannot restore them to a functioning person, and therefore we have to keep them locked up indefinitely, right? I think if that person says, look, I don't want to stay locked up indefinitely, I've lived enough of my life, please just execute me. I don't think the state should be squeamish about it. I think if the person wants to die, I think the state should accommodate them. Why make them hang themselves and suffer in doing this?
I agree. If a person is living in such a state that which they are suffering and there's no ability for them to change,
Right.
and to improve their quality of life, I think it makes sense to give them the opportunity to just leave, to just go. I mean,
I want to
Yeah,
let
euthanasia.
Eric have an opportunity to give a rebuttal real quick.
No.
Yes. My
Okay.
bad.
Wait a minute. I'm co-host. I could boot her. Green Bay.
Whatever, blah, blah, blah. You had a good point here. Say it or I'll kick you. Just kidding.
Okay, come on. What do you disagree with, Kristen? I love it when you disagree with me.
No, it was Eric. Eric said he had a really good point. Do you
Okay,
remember it, Eric?
Wait. How far?
Cheater, is that Eric? Oh, okay.
How far back am I going in my good
Okay,
point?
the state
Because,
does
like
not
I left and came back.
Okay, I will state it. And
I had
then
really
you-
good points
and then
like
you can
20 minutes ago,
support
too.
It.
Well, yeah, you
No.
do. It's a good point. I mean,
This
people
one
kill
was good.
people.
Okay, what was it? Go
The
ahead.
state does not execute the people. The state does not execute. The people do.
Yeah, but no.
Okay, wait. Okay,
Yes.
go, Eric. Go.
Well,
Okay,
people
well-
make the decision.
And then
Well,
you can
here-
rebuttal. You can give the rebuttal
Now-
after. Eric.
Yeah.
Okay.
Carlton.
Okay, well, Carlton, I
Yes,
don't
sir.
know, now you're hiding behind, I love it, because it cracks me up, the Dell thing here. You just like, Lex Luthor behind, just the head,
Exactly.
yeah. I had to leave because I was just dying, okay? But that being said, your representative government that you choose to live under, which
Yeah.
people forget is a choice, okay? In California, they choose to incarcerate versus execute. Texas, they choose to incarcerate and execute. Here in
Yes.
Colorado, we do execute, whatever.
Right.
Okay? It
Yep.
is the choice of the people that control the state until the federal government comes in, which is already way too powerful. And they're going to continue to be powerful until we pull them back from their power and actually put them into their checks and balances right here in this little itty bitty document tells everything Obama can do, but he doesn't listen to it, right? And Bernie Sanders and Hillary, they're not going to listen to it either, and neither is Jeb Bush, whatever. They're not going to listen to it. We need the states to have the power to be the states back. So, sum it up. The states do not execute people, although right now that is not entirely true. It needs to be back to where the people control it, and the people elect the judges, and people elect the people, and we have a representative. Personally, here in Colorado, I love my state. Except for Denver. Denver's all foobarred in a lot of ways. But
Boulder should
in
rule the
general,
world.
Colorado does represent my views for the most part. And
When I say the state,
that's where you need to live. You need to live to represent your views
well,
because
Yeah.
it does matter.
It does.
I think but when I say the state shouldn't have the power, what I'm trying to say there is I get that people elect the representatives who make the laws, who do the state. What I'm trying to say is that I think as a society going forward, that should be one of the foundational sort of truths, if you will, that no government can execute a criminal for any crime. They can incarcerate him. They can, and I'm thinking, and what I'm saying here is that the criminal justice system should be restorative, not punitive. They can restore these people. They can try to restore them. They can try to help them. That's what the criminal justice, and clearly incarcerating them protects the rest of society from something else they might do. But it's not punitive. It shouldn't be punitive. And if they cannot help somebody because they are so far gone, or we are so far behind in terms of technology and what we understand, then all I'm saying is that person, if they want to, if they'd rather have their life ended because they don't want to spend the rest of their life in prison, especially if we can't help them, then I don't think the government should be squeamish about acquiescing to their request. So if they say, please put me out of my misery, I don't think we should have any moral problems with putting them out of their misery if that's what they want to do. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, Carlton. So
Yeah.
we had this shooting here in Aurora, a couple of years ago. You remember this one? Where he shot up the movie theater at the Batman theater?
Yep.
And you would believe, your belief is that I should pay for this guy to sit in jail for the rest of his life.
No, I think everyone's obligation should be to try and restore him to sanity.
Okay, wait. Okay, how long do I have to pay for him to be restored to society?
Indefinitely.
And can I export him to Massachusetts?
No. Well, I don't know. Wait a minute. I don't know where that came in. I don't know where that part came in. But
what state do you live in?
I live in Tennessee.
Okay, can I export him to Tennessee? Because
what do you mean export him? What do you mean by export him?
100% export. Export.
What would you? Wait. Do you mean let him go export, or do you mean transfer him to another facility here?
Dude, I don't fucking care. Get him out of the state of Colorado.
Well, they may not care, but it does matter.
15 people in a cold-blooded shooting,
right?
And he's alive.
Right.
That cop
let me ask you a question.
Those guns
wait a minute. Okay, hang on.
Killed him.
Would it? Let me ask you a hypothetical question.
Wait,
same
no.
Person,
No.
Wait,
first of all, person. I am not going to talk to hypotheticals because this person was caught in cold blood with a gun at his side.
Yes, I'm not
going to talk hypotheticals.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. Let me get my sentence out. What I'm saying is, what if we had found out that he had a brain tumor?
Exactly.
How would you feel differently about what he did?
Empathize with the human being, you know?
Right. And my argument is we're automatons. It wouldn't matter that he had no more choice with the brain tumor than he had without the brain tumor. It's a function of both his physical anatomy and it's a function of his history.
One more. He lined his apartment with bombs, waiting for people to come into his apartment to arrest him. Lined with trip cords and bombs. He deserves to be dead.
No,
but you would support him and keep him alive.
Yes.
I see. So what's interesting here is you say that people deserve things, right? People always deserve to be dead, right? It's the whole deserving mentality. But you don't know this guy's past. You don't know how he's been conditioned. You think that just because he's a human being, he has as high of a cultivated awareness as other people do, which he probably doesn't because he's lining his apartment with bombs. He could have a disorder. He could have a brain tumor. What we're saying is, sure, you can if he wants to leave, you can kill him, right? But if you want to ship him somewhere else to a facility, you could definitely do that. But you should always provide people the opportunity to change and become better people, even if you have to isolate them.
If I go into a hospital, right? You got a hospital and you got those little machines that pump your IV fluids in, right? That sit by your bedside, right? What happens if one of those malfunctions? What happens if one day one of those malfunctions and it's got a morphine drip and it lets too much morphine through and the person dies that's connected to it as a result? Okay, we don't think of this in terms of punishing the IV machine. We fix it. We send it to a technician. There's not a moral issue here. We send it to a technician. He replaces a chip or a fuse or whatever, and then we put the thing back in service. I think that people again are
Carlton. Again, you are factually wrong. That's not what happens. That's not what happens.
To what? Machines?
You go up to the manufacturer of the equipment, you sue the manufacturer of the equipment, and they pay for. Really?
But ultimately, they fix, depending on the cost of the machine, they fix the machine.
Fix the machine.
Dude, I so feel. Is this what it's like to talk to Bernie Sanders voters? Because I'm like, dude, you guys have no clue about reality. No,
actually, we have a very good clue about reality.
Okay,
but we understand that the issues are not black and white.
We
understand how people work and why they do the things they do.
Okay.
Well, you know what? A lot of things are black and white. Okay, both of you need to live a little bit in the real world. Okay, so when that compounder. When that medical device fails...
I'm done with idiocy, Kristen. We'll see you later.
Okay.
Love you. See you later, Matthew.
Well, that didn't take much.
I wasn't even done typing my thing in the comments.
I understand
agree with those who oppose you.
It's important to keep our enemies close because they teach us a lot.
Yeah. It's important to keep people around that will challenge our thoughts so that they'll keep us in mind. Yeah. I mean, who are we to even say that we're right?
Exactly. The need to be right is very destructive too. This is why, like, see, when you take a topic like this and you polarize it and you make it like, this is right, you're wrong, this side's bad, this side's good. Polarizing black and white does not help. It doesn't help. It doesn't.
It gets us nowhere. All it does is spin us around in circles on a merry-go-round.
Exactly. That's why we have to teach people to have compassion for themselves at a young age so they don't turn into a shooter. I mean, that's the solution.
Yes.
Teach people to, like, love themselves and love people and feel connected and in harmony with humanity and intimately connected to the universe.
Yes.
You know?
Thank you. And that touches on the heart of why I made this blab in the first place.
Good.
Winning! Mad Pugga winning.
Because I was given
hosting
Lucas
abilities
a hard time, right?
Oh. Yeah.
The rich kid. The rich kid, you know, who...
Was he a rich kid? I don't know. I just saw that
you can't walk...
picking on him.
See, you know what? Here's the thing. Here's the thing that people love to do, right? Is take things so out of context that it doesn't even... They can make it out to be like, oh, this guy is the bad guy, right? Dude, my first day on Blab, I got reported to Blab. My first day, 9 months ago. I was reported and blocked and regarded, you know.
I love you and I'm not surprised.
Because I had a 12-year-old kid in a blab that some 30-year-old thought I was being too harsh on. I'm like, dude, he's fucking 12 years old. Why is he in blab? Okay? Now, that being said, things are black and white. Okay? Okay, what's your name? You Matthew? Matthew? How old are you? Like 19? Okay? 21. If you are you're 20. Okay. If you're in a car accident and you die, is that not black and white?
Well, I'm dead, right?
If you're dead,
the happening is black and white. How it happened?
That is black and white, right? And the crossing over the median could be a gray area, right? But the end result is you are dead. That is black and white. There are a lot of things that are black and white. Dude, I live in a gray area. I don't know. You're still growing up. You're still going through school. You're still probably figuring out what you're going to do for the rest of your life. You know, I understand it, right? You're a Bernie Sanders guy because you're 19 years old.
No, I'm not.
Because everything is gray.
Sweetie,
right?
stop. You don't know math.
This is what makes people, when you make assumptions like that and you label people, that's what makes people pissed.
Oh yeah.
You imagine people more simply than they are because you like black and white, so you imagine people as simple and not complex.
And am I wrong? Are you're not a Bernie Sanders supporter? Because I've been hearing you talk as a Bernie Sanders supporter.
I don't even follow.
I was the one that said that.
Okay. Well, ignorance does not make me wrong. By the way, you not knowing who Bernie Sanders is doesn't make me wrong.
I'm not saying that I'm right.
No, you said that I was judging you, and yes, I was. But you don't even know who I'm talking about, so yeah, you don't get it. Never mind. I'm out.
Okay, but he might be back. I don't know. Eric's beautiful. I like Eric because he's one of those people that, you know, makes you think. He's always going to be helping.
I think part of it is coming at things with a confrontational mentality too, and because that just divides us. It's just crazy. I don't know.
How's it going?
I just want people to love each other. Hi, Timothy.
So it's kind of funny that you're absolutely right. I mean, the debate is important in the right time and the right place. If you have people who have squared off, who realize they're going to debate. But I think that in these type of chats, it's better to ask questions and be more patient with people. and that's the better way to go.
This is an opportunity that we have.
Yeah.
This is not something to be taken lightly. Like, this is something new and something that we've never had so easily before. The ability to ask someone from another culture. We had some people from Arabia come in trying to teach us Arabian. Like, how cool is that?
Well, see, what it's doing though, like what's really interesting to me about communication and connecting like this is there are so many variables in the world. There's so many differences in culture and everything. And what this does is, I think it helps us, I think it helps us see the constants in the variables, because the variables cloud everything that we're trying to picture and everything we're trying to understand. The variables divide us. The variables cause us to argue and cause us to hate each other. And seeing the constants and looking deeper is, I think, what would connect all of us. But there's a lot of noise, and it's hard to understand noise.
So what I would say, and is that guy still on, by the way? What's
I don't
his
know.
name?
Eric?
No,
Eric.
He's still on there.
Okay. You just need to slow down, because we're not that smart. Okay. I'm not that smart. So I can't take on like 10 concepts at the same time. I'm just not
Eric
that
is
bright.
very smart.
I'm sure he is, but for me, I'm not that smart. So I need to slow down, go one step at a time, and then we can talk about things. The more you kind of talk over somebody, the more difficult it is to have the conversation. Just to slow down and pick one topic at a time, and I think it'll work out great.
Chris is saying that your brain works on things when you sleep. That could be the problem here.
Your brain works on things when you sleep. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know what your brain does when you sleep? You know what your brain actually does? So when you fall asleep and you go into sleep stages, your cells in your brain shrink, and your cerebral spinal fluid goes into your brain and clears out all the waste produced by all your cells in your brain. And then when it flows back into your spinal cord, you wake up, and that's why you need sleep. And you'll die if you don't sleep.
And I can tell you that the last time I yelled at somebody at work, so just because I look like I'm this calm guy all the time, I screamed at a guy a couple of years ago now. Let's see, it would have been 2012, maybe 2013.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and I hadn't done that type of thing for a long time, but I was under a lot of stress, and I sort of regret it now. But I'll go back to so I yelled at a guy. There was some issues. We're having some problems. I needed him to do something. He didn't seem like he was going to do it, and he kind of left it to me to do, and I wasn't happy about it. I handled it badly, though, too. But one thing that happened, I remember, is that night I had, like, the worst dream. Like, I had crazy dreams that night. And I had a dream, actually, that somebody who I knew a long time ago, I talked with them, and they said something like, "I'm really disappointed in what you did today." It was like really, like, I usually don't have dreams that are that real. It was
intense.
Real, man. Yeah, it was real.
Cool.
So anyway, yeah, that's interesting that you bring up that while we just had that. But yeah, I would also say, if that guy's still listening, Carlton, Carlton again is someone who you need to, go slow with, and he'll want to really dissect something, and I think that the hypothetical can give us ideas to deal with reality.
Yeah, it
I
can.
can understand
To certain points.
Yeah, I really am not a big fan of hypothetical situations, because I feel like a lot of times it's entrapment. It just, like, I am careful with the hypothetical questions which I will engage in, because I don't. The last thing that I want to do is encourage someone to continue in a destructive behavior. Yeah. Some people use it destructively.
Oh, okay, understood. Yeah.
And as human beings, like, we're really bad at storing information accurately of stuff that happens. Like, the most reliable source of information in court is eyewitness accounts. And if you've ever played the game Telephone,
isn't that in itself the most pathetic thing?
Yeah, like the fact we believe in UFOs and everything.
Research is over for me.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's eyewitness accounts are Terrible.
Welcome.
I just heard Matthew do another ignorant comment.
What?
The fact that some people believe in UFOs, really?
What?
Matthew, you would judge someone poorly because they believe in potential of someone beyond Earth existing?
Well, you're right. It's insensitive of me to. I'm not calling them. I mean, they can believe what they want. They have every right to believe what they want. Exactly.
Right. So you take that. You probably don't believe in the statement you just made, right?
Which one?
Yeah. Well, it came off as judgmental. No, the UFO thing.
No, it came out very factual, actually. Right? Just like earlier, I was very, very factual in the things that I said, right?
How
Very
so?
confident in what you said and what you
I was
right?
factual.
It's not a fact.
How?
Well, I was factual about this guy killed like X number of people, but you guys believe. Well, no. Factual is that he killed people.
But he did.
And he was caught red-handed. Absolutely guilty as guilty can be, right?
What if it was an alien that did it?
But yet you guys want, I'm saying you, Matthew, and Dell guy want to, fix him, but yet he left his house booby-trapped, and you want me to pay for his mental health to repair him, but you don't want to pay for the X number of people that he killed, and let alone the people he wounded, and the people that are, how about the business that was lost? You don't want to pay for all that. But you're okay with paying for, and I said, hey, I export him, I choose. I got no issue with it, dude. I'll export him to a state. I'll extradite him to a state that wants to pay for the mental health. California is the first one that comes to my mind. Hey, dude, California, you want him? Take him.
Do you have the ability to do that?
It doesn't exist.
So then why are we talking about it?
Because that's what was going on when I walked out 2 out of the 3 times. Is these are not real world things, Matthew.
So Eric, let me ask you a question. So I agree with you. Actually, I'm a type of person who I used to be against the death penalty, and now I'm for it. And we can unpack the reasons why, but it's probably because I'm getting older. Okay, but anyway. But anyway, and there's a lot of different reasons why. I'm the type of person, and maybe this is morally wrong or something's wrong with me, but I'm the type of person who believes that it's not that you basically just punish a person. It's not going to stop. The death penalty is not going to stop people from doing things.
No, it's not a deterrent.
It's not a deterrent. Okay, excellent. So it's essentially just a punishment. And let's pretend, for whatever reason, I believe that there are times when punishments should be in place. Okay, perfect. And we can know that this person was caught red-handed. Now you and I agree this person should be punished and maybe he should have the death penalty. Perfect. Boom, we're done. The question then becomes, let's go down the slippery slope. You have a person who, happens in the 1980s or something like that. They go to trial. They get charged with murder and rape of somebody. And then they go to jail, and now they're on death row. Now, we have a state, some state, let's say it's Texas, we'll pick on Texas, and they say, yep, we're going to execute this person. But now we have different evidence. Now we have DNA evidence that can come in. In that case,
I understand. I get it. Yeah, Tim, I get it.
Perfect.
This guy was caught. I know
Absolutely.
I know I'm making an extreme case, but it was also it was an extreme case, right?
What?
I think that cop that found him probably regrets shooting that guy right then and there, and he had all the probable cause to shoot him. because he had guns sitting there in his hand, sitting there. He was sitting at his car, sitting there with guns in his lap. And that cop had every justifiable reason to execute that person at that time. I know that is wrong, right? But, dude, this wasn't a mistaken identity. This wasn't,
Absolutely.
I mean, I know it's an extreme case, right? And I don't like to speak in extremes, but that was my frustration with some of this is like you can't treat everyone like they're, like everyone can be
Not
fixed.
everyone is a Care Bear.
No, you can't. I do believe in mental health, right? I got no issue with that. Yeah, fix people before they come to, but that starts when they're 12 years old, not when they're 20 or 30. People don't, that starts way, way, way younger, right? That comes from the broken homes, the mismanaged families, the moms raising boys. As good as the mom might be, she can't, in general, raise a boy. It's not because of a failure of her as a person. It's freaking genetics. You need a male figure. I mean, that's why we yin and yang, men and women. That's why we do this thing, right?
Function of society,
it feels really good.
So let me ask you a question then. What happens? Let's take a different scenario. So let's take a scenario where one person kills another person in a different state. So I think this case is too personal to discuss. Let's talk about a different one. So,
extraterritoriality.
This was an execution, so very different.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So let's say there's one person in a different state who kills another person or a few people, and they arrest them, and then it's determined that they have some mental incapacity, that they don't understand the difference between right and wrong.
I'm not compassionate about that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
All
right. So if there was a person who didn't understand right from wrong because of something in their brain, either it's a tumor or something else, you wouldn't have compassion.
Well, okay. Well, what happened? You can't bring back the people that they shot.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Understood.
Now let's pull it a notch further, a notch simpler. Okay.
Okay.
We treat drunk drivers worse than we treat a lot of other crimes. Okay. We in the sense that after one beer, your whole life can be screwed up for the rest of your life, and you never get another job. Per the law, right? Now, okay, someone who was not in a mental state that got a gun, okay, while they were apparently in a mental state enough to get a gun, people aren't just handing guns out. That doesn't happen. As much as the media wants to portray that you can just go get a gun, that is true. And we, like here in Colorado, we are a shale issue state. And you know why we're a shale issue state? Because this document says you have to issue. The U.S. Constitution is the U.S. Constitution. I have the right to do it. Okay? I can get a knife, I can get a gun, I can get a car, I can do whatever. I think we're way too liberal on driver's licenses. Personally, how many people die every year because of dumb drivers? I mean, to me, what we're gonna say everyone who's in an accident now was not in a mental state? No. Okay, so I apologize. I went on a rant, but I followed your slippery slope all the way down. I'm like, dude, what? Someone who's drunk is a worse driver? Someone who's had 2 beers is a worse driver than someone texting on their phone? Honestly, I doubt that. I'm pretty sure that I could drink a case of beer and do better on a race course than someone texting on their phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got sidetracked in the chat. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, this is good, and I appreciate. Is it Eric? Is that right?
Kristen is not going to allow me to be Caesar.
I let the cat out of the back.
Have another drink.
Oh well, I got no issue with it, dude. So, I'm not doing anything today, so I'm here to hang out with you guys.
Yay, we're so lucky.
So
if anyone wants to take a seat, like I'm totally fine to rotate. I love hearing people's perspectives.
I'll ask one other question.
So just let us know.
So I believe in the U.S. Constitution as well, and I think it's a great document. I happen to like the fact that there's separation in church and state, but we won't talk about that right now. Is it possible that is it possible that there are parts of the U.S. Constitution which we should change?
That haven't already been changed? Because all the amendments are already a part of the change, right? So, like,
right. So we got rid of.
I'm not entirely.
We had.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Yep. So we had the part where they got rid of alcohol, right? Prohibition, and then they repealed the prohibition. So that's one where they changed it and then changed it back.
Right.
Is there anything else in the Constitution that you think could be or should be changed? Do you think it's just a static document, right? What we have right now, that's it, or do you think it can?
Well, no, it was meant to be a living, breathing document, but it wasn't meant to be interpreted by the courts the way it's been interpreted. Okay, nothing in this document says that abortion is legal, and nothing in this document says abortion is illegal. Right?
Right.
Nothing in this document says that women can't vote. Well, that was one of the exceptions, right? Or was it? What? No.
What are you saying?
Did women ever? Did we have a? We never had an amendment that said women get to vote, did we?
No, it was just worded.
Well, there was women's suffrage.
Men is the common term throughout all of it.
Right, which was the language at the time.
Right.
Okay, which didn't, Okay, so that would be one interpretation, right? That is liberal, right? Men and whatever. All men are created equal, right? Yeah, it is open to interpretation, right?
So you said it's a living and breathing document, so we can change it and we can add amendments and even.
Well, because they
right?
As soon as it was passed, the first thing they did is said, "We're gonna do this." Guess what? I need to be able to defend my state against the federal government. That's the first amendment that they made. It's like as soon as it was passed, it's right here. Congress should make no law respecting religion, prohibiting the free speech thereof, and abridging the people of the. And then the second one is well-regulated militia. I need to be able to defend Colorado against the federal government. That is the law.
So, Eric, who do you believe should have the ability to change the Constitution?
Well, it's not who I believe, because that's defined in here. It's a unanimous vote of the states in the Congress, I believe, right?
Excellent. So here we get down to the last question then. What happens, and let's say it happens in 20 years or 30 years, and I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm not saying that I want this to happen. I doubt that it's going to happen, but I'm just asking the hypothetical question if that's okay. What happens if it's decided to remove that particular part of the Constitution that gives people the right to own guns? If that's removed from the Constitution,
it would take a 50% of the state's votes, and I don't think you'll get it. Hypothetically, let's say you do get it.
Okay.
I mean, that comes down to the wording because you can't just annul. I don't know. I guess you could, right? And say we're just going to ixnay the whole Second Amendment, right? And it's no
Or
longer
part of it.
valid, right? Like all of it. We're just going to say ixnay. Because it's only 25 words. It's not that much, right? Are you going to ixnay it, or are you going to replace it with something else, right? That would be ultimately the question.
Let's say we get rid of it. Then what would your position be in that?
If you got rid of it, at that point, it becomes a state issue, because by definition, anything not in the Constitution is regulated to the states. The federal government has no right to enforce anything. Pot, marijuana, alcohol. Well, alcohol being the exception, but marijuana is not in here.
Yep.
And Obamacare, bullshit that you passed Obamacare the way they passed it. You cannot pass a tax on me as a federal. Yes, it did. It passed the Supreme Court, and I read the dissents, and this and that. But I don't get it. I don't get it. Interstate Commerce Clause says that you can force me to pay for health insurance. I'm like, okay, I guess, because maybe, it doesn't force me to buy. Where is auto insurance in the Constitution? What? I can buy auto insurance in Colorado. It doesn't mean I have to have auto insurance in Oklahoma or Kansas. Yeah, you need some interstate commerce to regulate it all, but it's all still regulated by the state. It's like I can't deal with State Farm in Colorado for my rental in California. I'm like, so where's the fucking federal government on that? Like, why don't you just give me one State Farm account and force all my State Farm to deal with all my properties all around the country, right? Yep. We don't care about that, but we care about this other crap. I'm sorry. Excuse my language.
It's okay. So,
and I'm yes, I've been drinking, but I'm still upset with Matthew over here and his liberal view. I just and Del guy, and I'm sorry. I'm taking it out on you guys, but dude, come on. Have we ever lived in the real world? I don't get it.
So
yeah, in reality.
So obviously, states' rights versus federal rights is big for you. States' rights is big.
Yeah.
Just this will be my last question. This is less to do. So I just wanted to ask questions. Now I'll ask one last one.
Actually, I like your questions. If you keep going, I'm all about answering them. Because they make me.
But this one will be more political. So I'll just go with that. So if you had to, I'll do this hypothetical. Actually, this will be a good one. Regardless of who's running for president right now, so you can throw everybody out or you can keep everybody in. Who would be the one person that you would want to be the president of the United States? It could be anybody. Doesn't have to be any of the people who are running.
Personally, I do like Scott Walker, but he's not qualified yet. I do like him long term. But yeah, outside of the people in the race, obviously I am a Republican registered, but I'm not Republican here in Colorado. Yeah, you got to be a Republican, but I'm constitutional libertarian. I've learned I want my state's rights, and I've become very, very big. I'm not necessarily in favor of the pot law. I'm really not. I voted against it, but I will defend Colorado's, this is Colorado, dude. Yeah, we got to pay now to sue Kansas or defend lawsuits from Kansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska. Yeah, I mean, that was all kind of why I voted against the law. Not because I think pot should be illegal, right? So it's a really, like, Rand Paul doesn't even have a chance. I mean, I don't even think Rand Paul knows what's going on. It's hard for me to think about the non-front runners, which is I like Ted Cruz combined with like Marco Rubio. I love what Donald Trump is doing with making people talk about the stuff that no one wants to talk about. Yes, there is a ton of Mexican crime. Yes, there is a ton of Mexican alien crime. I've been there. I've experienced it. It exists, because no one wants to talk about it. I'm not anti-Donald Trump either, but I do kind of like Ted Cruz. So I don't know. I don't know what way I went around that in answering, because I don't know yet. My mind's not made up, but dude, no Bernie Sanders. And I'm sorry, Jeb Bush, Hillary Clinton, if we have a Bush or a Clinton in the White House in 30 years, that is now a monarchy. That cannot happen.
Oh my goodness, we could go from like Hillary to like.
But it can't. You cannot have two Bushes,
grandchild,
a Bush, a Clinton, a Bush, okay, Obama, and then another Bush or a Clinton. Dude, I'm not that Jeb Bush isn't potentially a very intelligent, potentially good person, but I'm sorry, he's ixnayed for me, because I'm not going to have a monarchy, and that's a monarchy, and to me, Hillary, I can't believe that people don't look at it this way and say, dude, we cannot have a monarchy. Okay, fine.
All right, so
fucking vote Bernie Sanders in, fine. But Hillary?
I'll make 3 more statements, and I gotta get going.
Bernie flag.
So number one, even though probably politically we're completely different, I agree with you about the whole Bush-Clinton thing. It's going to be difficult for me to vote for Hillary, only because what are we doing here now? Okay, that's I know it sounds weird to people, but
it's just scary.
It is. Number two, America. There's not. I mean, I've asked this question before. Name me a society that isn't controlled by a few people. What is it? Oligarchy? Is that what it is?
Oligarchy.
Matthew, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And then number 3, Eric, is it?
Sure.
Eric.
I suppose.
All right.
See ya.
I'm not coming in anymore at Kristen's Hangouts or Blabs.
Oh no, where'd he go?
Did he? Was that a goodbye? Is that
that
his last
was
statement?
his goodbye. That was his last statement, I guess.
And Eric? And then that's it? No, he's coming back, I believe.
I want people to be grounded in reality too.
But whose reality? Whose reality is it really?
Oh, you have to live in your own reality, right? And to me, the unfortunate thing is, until like Matthew, okay, I don't mean this the wrong way, okay? There was a saying, and I was swooned by Clinton when I was in college.
Oh,
Thank God I didn't vote, right? I wasn't motivated enough to vote, okay? Well, that motivation changed and we got Obama, okay? Now, yeah, McCain was not going to be good. But the second Obama, dude, I'm like, I don't even know what the hell's going on, because what did the first Obama do, right?
I didn't like him the first time around, and then because I thought he was the Antichrist. Literally, I thought he was the Antichrist because I was at that place on my path at that time. But the second time around, I liked him.
Yeah, I don't follow. I just don't follow it. I am ignorant because I don't enjoy
I just
politics.
like to hear you do that.
The smartest people stay away from politics because they realize.
No.
I
Okay,
am fortunate because I have
Matthew.
children and it's not my season
It's just
to be all up in
Okay,
it.
but you know what? It does. Okay, see, these are where your perspectives start to change, right? So, like, Kristen lives in Arizona. Okay, are you homeschooling?
No, but they're in charter schools. They're in charter schools.
You're not okay, but which is basically the Arizona version of homeschooling. I mean, and up to a point, you get to choose. I mean, the charter school thing has been a new thing within the last 20 years.
Oh yeah, like some of
Because
our
I
teachers,
remember
like we
debating
don't
it
even
in
have to have a
college.
degree.
Right.
We just
Like-
have to like them.
Right. And I mean, like my sister now runs a brand new charter school in Wisconsin. She's at the ground floor, gets to dictate it all. It's all equal, with what they can't reject any kids. It's not, it's every state is doing this all differently. Like where I live, a lot of people are homeschooled. And you know why? I'm okay with it because I grew up in the Great Lakes. Yeah, we pay a lot of taxes, but it's states' right. So in Wisconsin, where I grew up, you can have a drink and get married if you're 19 years old. Let's say you're 20 years old and you get married. You can legally drink. Do you know that's the only state in the country you can do that?
Minnesota?
nope. No, I do.
Is the only state in the country that if your parents are with you, well, you could drink at 12 years old if your parents are with you. But I use the 20-year-old analogy because that's the real one, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Wisconsin was the last state to hold out. Now, okay, I do not know about Alaska. I'm sure, I'm sure Montana, they're more liberal about the enforcement, right?
So when you say the only, you really just mean the only one that you're talking about right now.
Where it's actually technically legal.
But you just said you don't know about those other ones.
Well, no, they're not legal. Whether they
Montana and Alaska are not legal states. Everyone, you heard it here.
Well, in Wisconsin, you can drink if your parents are with you at any age, at the discretion of the person serving you the drink. But that's states' right. So they were one of the last ones to fight the 19 to 21 drinking age law. Right? Now, it's mostly German, Polish. A lot of Michigan is German, Scandinavian,
I didn't know.
and you get, but the local culture enforces their own local culture, right? And this is, I was that blab earlier when we were just having discussions.
Are you when you were having discussions and I was like all like offended? I was like, stop telling me things that are gonna make me get in trouble with my boyfriend, and and then I finally had to leave and stuff like that. Like that one? Is that the one?
Well, it was the same blab, but that was when we were talking with
Chris, who's here?
Lucas.
Okay.
Okay, but
Crazy
I mean, like
blab.
these are, okay. I don't know. I think I would rather homeschool my kids than send them here to Colorado schools. But in Wisconsin, I would absolutely, still to this day, I send them to public school.
Do you think that the people feel that the people have more say in the public school system?
They're involved in the day-to-day process. And I think here is just kind of like, you kind of send them out, and I mean there are definite generation paradigms that are changing.
Yeah.
Right? In teaching, But I just don't. I mean, we got a 9 and a 12-year-old that are my housemates here that I live with. I'm like, they should have homework. I've never seen either one of them have anything with them. And in my mind, at 12, you should have homework.
Yeah, man.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I mean, like, and the school day keeps getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and then lunch, it's like, dude, I mean,
wow, ours gets longer.
That's crazy.
I just don't think kids are being challenged enough.
It kind of comes down to educating the voters, though, because, like, okay, so, like, I've had the same bumper sticker on my car. Well, my car that's, like, no longer working, but I still have it there. It's in the driveway. But it's a proposition that didn't pass, and the reason why I keep it on there is to make everyone feel bad. Like, that's my little. Like, our schools are shitty in Queen Creek because you didn't vote for this. And, like, it's awful. Like, people just are, like, they're just apathetic. Like, whatever about the schools. Kids are just going to be kids, and no one cares about what's going on anyways. And they don't vote for teachers to have higher salaries. They don't vote for more computers in the school system. Like, they just
not invested.
Yeah, no.
Just not invested.
They're like, well, the kids that really matter are going to have parents that send them to private schools.
That's why homeschooling is more reliable of an option.
I don't know. I don't know where you sit, Kristen.
It's hard because I'm torn between the public education system because I believe in it firmly. I believe that if we do not take care of the weakest link, that we are setting ourselves up.
You have to. And one of the things that I remember in college, actually in high school, my senior year when I had debate in high school, we debated things like putting windmills along freeways and like charter schools, right? And
pretty novel for that time, right?
Oh, dude, I went to a very, very, very. We were, like I said, the Great Lakes. There's a reason us Packer fans are all over the country. The Wisconsin is a huge exporter of. Okay, I will say it for myself.
Jeez.
Intelligent people.
Oh.
Yeah.
Tiny joke. Sorry.
We are, and you know what? There is way more in your life that comes out of Milwaukee than you even realize. There really is. Like the mechanics to make that bottle. I mean, like I wish I could share personally, like publicly, more of what I do, just to show people how things are made and where they come from and whatnot. But that's a different issue. I mean, like. Yeah. Somehow I work with, 3 people from Wisconsin. Everywhere I've been, I've worked with 3 or 4 different people from Wisconsin. It's like I'm not in a big field, Anyway, so it does come down to every individual state doing what the state feels, right? And like I personally, I like Colorado because my property taxes are low. Okay. Well, property taxes in most states, I don't know if it's all states, right? But most states, including here, pay for public schools.
Yeah, New York does that.
I mean, I'm pretty sure, I just won't say blanket for all, because like Florida has like no state income tax and like Nevada has, But I like my low property tax versus like my brother who lives in Wisconsin, who bought half the house money wise, but his taxes are like my entire mortgage every year. And I'm like, dude, you never get that back. You never get that back. You'll never, that's another $1,500 every year. Or worse, right?
Yeah.
And now he doesn't have any kids, right? That's state socialism, right? This is where things become very, very clear. If he wanted to live in Illinois that does not have the same system, he could live in Illinois and drive into Chicago the same way he drives into Chicago and Wisconsin. But he chooses to live in Wisconsin because it's a better state because you pay more money. But he's not getting any advantages out of it because he doesn't have any kids. You know, I mean, like, but those are states. I don't know. I guess I'm on a rant on the states' rights thing because, like,
I love that kind of
thing. Those are the ones they choose.
I'm still frustrated with this guy from Netherlands that I didn't know where Holland was. And dude, honestly, I did not know where Holland was until today. I'm like, I knew generally where it was, but now I know factually the exact two regions in Netherlands that is Holland. Like, we always, we grew up knowing Holland. Like, and Belgium, and these countries just kind of like sit there in Europe. And yet, we've been told for the last 10, 15 years that the United States needs a European health system. We don't need a European health system. The health system in Europe doesn't even work.
Yeah.
And he's like,
what about Canada?
Well, now Canada is a different animal, but where's the technological innovation coming out of Canada? Everyone from Canada that's worth anything works down here.
Yeah.
Now we offer, as America, which is unique to America, one of the few places that do this, we offer dual citizenship to just about anyone, right? Most countries do not do that. Yeah. It's like we are such an open culture and such an open, it's like it's so different. Now, I think I could walk into Germany with my last name and I would be okay. Okay? Even not speaking German. I could just say, my parents told me to take Spanish over German. And, I'd survive, right? But the German culture, why is the German culture the only culture in Europe after 2 wars? 2 wars! We destroyed them twice. And where are the 3 economic powers of the world? Germany, Japan, and the United States.
Yeah.
Why is that? I mean, hey, okay, China, whatever. Yeah, I mean, and that's, whatever. They're not an economic power yet. And still to this day, they're not. But
is it their industry? It's German's industry, right? It's
the people.
Yeah.
It's the people. It's the German. It's the pride. It's the fact that, you know what? Yeah, if I come over there, I'd be expected to speak German. I'm like, they're very open, right? But it's like, dude, it's German. If you're going to Germany, you're speaking German, right?
Yeah.
Well, why isn't Belgium creating the amazing products? Now
they
England
create good chocolate. Come on, and they've got lace.
I did forget London in that whole the 4 powers of the world, because London is, I kind of pulled them in with the United States, but London is not a pocket change economy. The sun still to this day does not set on the British Empire. I don't believe. Although that may have changed with Hong Kong. I'm not sure. But
I want to address Timothy's question. What do you think about semi-socialist countries in Europe which are living at better standard of living than the U.S.?
See, that's the question: are they a better standard of living? Really? I mean that's the ultimate question, right?
Are they?
Okay, so if we're gonna call, to me, this is where I get really, really anal. You want to talk about Europe, or do you want to talk about Finland, Sweden, Scotland, England, France, Germany, Italy? Pick your country.
Just the ones that are semi-socialist.
Not all equal.
Which ones are the semi-socialist ones?
Well, Europe is now, see, everyone wants Europe to be a country, right? To compete with the United States, right?
Okay, so Timothy is not saying that, though. He is specifically asking about the countries inside of Europe. So he's not.
So which ones are?
But that's an ignorant question. How? Because Europe is trying to be one country. So which country?
Europe is trying to be one country?
Well, absolutely.
Or people are trying to make Europe one country?
No.
Because don't we have that whole silly word thing that's like you get into the dictionary that's like doesn't mean anything? What is it?
No, you got
Zagat
one
or something like that.
You got one currency. You got universal IDs.
Yeah.
Okay. You got forced. If you are a German citizen, France has to accept you. I believe, unless I'm wrong about this, there's no. If you have a European ID, it is one country. You go wherever you want. So,
do you think it's not worth the effort?
Are dissolved.
Do you think it's too diverse for them to try to make it one country?
Well, but they can't make their mind up. So, to Timothy's question, okay, the British were smart. They are in the EU from a regulation standpoint, but they are not in the EU for a currency standpoint, and they were smart. They're like, no, we don't need to do this. Like we got British pounds all over the world, and we got US dollars. It's like, dude, no, you guys can have your euro. We're gonna stay here on the pound, right? But from like an import perspective, like CE, CE is the mark that if you look at anything you have, look at the back of it, you're gonna probably find a CE mark. Okay, in order to bring anything into Europe, you have to have a CE mark. Okay, that was before even that just had to happen. There had to be some merging of codes and standards and stuff across Europe, right? But when they went to that universal ID, what makes a resident in Germany any different than a resident in France, or a resident of Belgium, or a resident of Italy? That's why Greece is such a big deal.
Yeah,
because Greece has had a very liberal policy where, at 40 years old, you get to freaking retire. Well, Germany is like, oh, well, we're going to pay for that? Well, yeah. And they keep, and for whatever reason, people keep, accepting all these refugees in, right? It's like, hey, that's fine. That's your problem, Europe. And look what happened in Paris. Not that you should not be helping people and, accepting refugees, but it doesn't matter anymore. If Germany says we accept them, Europe accepts them. I mean, like there is no.
Yeah.
They can't make their mind up. Are they a country? Are they going to be the United States of Europe, where each state has its own little laws, right? Which is really probably where they need to be, but they're not doing that. That's what the United States was right here in this book from the get-go, designed to be. But yet, for whatever reason, we feel we want to emulate Europe, who's actually emulating us. It's retarded.
So messed up. It's complicated.
It's not complicated. It's really simple. I mean, this shit isn't rocket science.
Are you muted?
So thank you. The sad thing is that like I'm sitting here and you could be telling me the truth or you could be completely lying to me, and I'm just like, interesting, because I don't know, and I'm sure that I'm not alone and across the country because I read a lot, and I'm sure that there are probably many people who are not as keen on reading geeky, nerdy things. And how sad is that? That like you could just be lying, and I'd just be like, maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong.
Yeah, people just aren't educated on it.
Mm-hmm.
But concepts. What do you think? Let's just say, how could I make up the concept? So, the question here from Timothy was, what do you think about socialist, semi-socialist countries in Europe that have a better standing than the U.S.? Well, okay, first of all, I got a pretty good standard of living, and I'm perfectly okay with it. I get to go to one of the most pristine resorts there are in the world, not just North America, not just, Colorado, the world. Okay? Is my standard of living, low because I have to mow my yard? Yeah, maybe. Everything is relative, and all those people that do a lot of those statistics, they're just bad.
I love statistics, and I think that statisticians
do you know how easy they are to manipulate?
Oh, completely.
So easy. It's ridiculously easy.
Statistics are only as good as the people who are there interpreting and writing.
I will say this, Kristen, that every time I've been in Blab with you, you've had a drink in your hand.
Could be.
Now, keep in mind, that's a drink in your hand. Okay? Let's just say I throw it out to all of Blab that every time... Wait. Listen. Every time I see Kristen, she has a drink in her hand. Okay? I throw that out there. Statistically, I could be factually correct, right? With evidence, right?
Yeah, you're using weighted words.
Would I be wrong? Is it a drink? It is. You are drinking, right? Now, am I saying that may or may not be an alcoholic drink? Right? But it doesn't matter. Every time I've ever been in a Blab with you, you've had a drink in your hand. Therefore, 100% of the time, statistically, I can guarantee that you're drinking in a Blab.
And that's how you can phrase it.
Therefore, 100. I can extrapolate that to say that mathematically, there's a program. Okay, there's you pay money for it, right? And I can put in there and say, in and out of the Blab, statistical probability is that you're drinking in and out of the Blab too. Also, I should say not two. Also.
And
right?
just the fact that you're putting those terms in there statistically sways people over to believe a certain thing, whether or not they semantically understand what you're talking about.
It does sway people.
No, I would be factually and semantically correct.
Oh yeah,
right?
Well, yeah.
It was a dark,
I'm just saying that is very persuasive.
Rhetoric.
I can even add on to that. It was a dark beverage, a dark drink, which means it's not water. Now it could be iced tea, right? Could be iced tea.
Except I already admitted it's grape juice.
Well, right? But see, this is why statistics are they're awful, right?
I mean, unless you are a statistician talking to another statistician, they're very dangerous, and that's why people are saying.
Wait. I can okay. Okay, I don't know how much
how much you have in you.
No.
I didn't like numbers until I started learning social statistics.
Statistics can be modified simply through who's giving the data.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Now, not through any fault of any individual. If I operate a machine that I've programmed, I can make that machine look like it runs way better than it runs. Statistically, it'll shoot through the roof. The machine and all its areas, all its little judgments that it makes, like let's say 15 different judgments around the machine, the end result is an overall, what they call overall machine effectiveness, right? It's a term that comes out of Japan, the Toyota production system out of Japan.
Yep.
Okay, overall machine effectiveness, or I forget, whatever. Now, put someone else out there, and that overall machine effectiveness will drop 60-70%. Now, is it because the machine didn't work, or is it because the operator is retarded, or is it because the operator is short? Those are all things that you don't know about. But if I want to just show the overall effectiveness to my boss, I can run the machine. I can make it hit your effectiveness rating. That then you get to tell your boss, and your boss tells your boss, and your boss tells your boss, right? That's statistics.
It's like making a car look good, but the engine on the inside isn't very great. There's like one part wrong with it.
Gas mileage would have been one of them, right? Yeah, technically, you know, and that got changed, right? And now Volkswagen is being sued about that whole diesel thing. I look at Matthew because to me he's like the mind that I need to form. Kristen is just the blabber. But look at the Volkswagen thing that's going on, right? Everyone's all upset about the Volkswagen having funged its efficiency standards. Well, did it? Yeah, not really.
People
it
need
met
to take care
the law.
of the cars.
No. Matthew, you need to start reading the Drudge Report every day. Every day. Go to drudgereport.com and start learning about what's going on in the world. You need to do this.
Come on,
okay?
man.
Don't go to Huffington Post.
I don't even read that.
Well, you need to go to the Drudge Report.
Drudge, seriously? God, like Richard, did you try refreshing?
Yes.
I need your voice in here.
At least, at minimum, to scan the headlines. I mean, the headlines will give you an idea what to go Google.
Yes, but you don't like Bernie.
Well, no, Bernie's a communist.
Oh.
Man,
I wasn't supposed to smile at that part, was I? Yay, Richard's coming. Not saying he's a communist. I'm not judging.
Well, you have to wait. What do you mean you're not judging?
I don't know. I've never had that conversation with him. I'm just saying yay because I like him.
Fancy.
Bernie is about as much of a communist as Nixon was. You could call him a socialist. He's definitely not a communist.
And the difference is?
It's a huge difference.
Well, the difference is that this document does kind of eliminate communism as a possibility, except we got Obamacare. So I'm not entirely sure this document.
Obamacare is not communist. Obamacare might be considered. It would be considered more socialist as a single payer entity, but not communist. And the United States has been socialist ever since its inception.
It's never been anti-socialist, but it's always been mostly capitalist, but never anti-socialist.
And communism didn't even exist.
Well,
at the
communism has always existed.
So. Communist Manifesto.
Well, communism is the ideal religion, or the ideal religion to a government, just like democracy is the ideal. Neither one of them exist in the real world.
Religion to government?
That haven't failed.
No,
that haven't failed.
Capitalism has failed as many times as anything else. Social republics.
Wait. Where has capitalism failed?
You know. Let me see. Let's think of a few places. Somalia is a good example of that. You know, that was kind of an epic failure.
Isn't that the one that Clinton went in and bombed that no one wants to talk about?
That was after they managed to rape the entire country of all its natural resources and anything that could possibly be beneficial to the people.
So Somalia failed based on capitalism. I'll have to look into that one.
Okay.
You know, there's several instances. Look in North
Africa
Africa
is a
where
great
capitalism
sample
was tried
size for this.
Well, North Africa is a region, not a country. Unless you're talking about...
Well, there's a whole...
He wasn't talking specifically about a country. He was saying, like, look into that region. Because the continent of Africa is very regionally defined.
Right.
Like it's very tribal.
So we're in North Africa. Okay, you can't throw capitalism in overnight into a socialist system, or a dictatorship system overnight. You can't do that, right? So to say capitalism failed, you have to bridge the two.
You're fortunate in that you haven't been around the planet long enough to see what was developed over the past generation.
Okay, educate me, Richard.
I'm not trying to be an asshole, but I was in the military doing things before you were born that are affecting how we live today.
Okay, that's
capitalism. Capitalism extends from the United States and its military takeovers of other countries and the influence thereof. So capitalism has destroyed many things, many nations over the years based upon how we, the Americans, react.
Okay, Richard, I'm sorry, but that would be called imperialism.
Well, we're just sticking with the fact that we're a corporate.
Well, that would be imperialism, not capitalism.
And we're just about as close to that. We're a corporatist nation right now. Corporations are running this country. They have been for about 40 years.
Corporations have been running the world.
You know, so the capitalist concepts can be taken to the extreme, just like anything.
Okay.
You know, the problem is when you want to talk about things, you can always find pros and cons. You know, I've lived in Colorado all my life. I don't know of any place in Colorado I would call a more pristine resort than I could find in other places in the world. There again, that's your opinion versus mine.
Did I use the word
factual,
pristine? I did?
Yes, you did.
Oh, I thought I meant pristine in the blue sky aspect. Yes.
Okay.
I've been involved in the environmental industry for many years, and Colorado is an environmental flipping nightmare.
Yeah. Help me out. Educate me there. So that
groundwater has almost 2 times the mercury levels of most other groundwater.
Okay, but did that exist before industry or after? Did that exist before industry or after? Wait.
Before what?
Did that exist before industry, or has that always existed in the groundwater?
Oh no, this is post.
Okay, what industrial boom? And whose groundwater?
You're drinking. We've done.
Like Arapaho,
The entire state of Colorado. We're all on the same
The
aquifer.
entire state of Colorado.
The water all
is
comes
on-
out of the Ogallala.
The entire
Ogallala
state of Colorado is on the same aquifer. East
Yeah.
and west of
Those
the
parts of
Continental Divide.
Nebraska.
Really? Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Those parts of Nebraska, those parts of Kansas.
I
those
don't care
parts of
about them.
Oklahoma.
I only care about me.
You know, we've done deep ice pack surveys on glacial ice flows in Colorado. And we can, you know, as a result, you can determine when the contaminants started to affect the environment. Core drillings, et cetera, erosion studies. There's so much science out there that, you know, you could spend an entire lifetime trying.
Yeah, there's a lot of theories. There's a lot of
Colorado
theories.
No, a lot of it's proven.
Well, then,
A lot of it's
what's proven?
Well, gee, I contain 1.76 nanograms per milliliter more lead in my body than you do. That's a proven
That
fact.
you do? I don't know. I ate a
I
lot of
was-
stinkers as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, but you weren't around leaded gasoline. Everybody that was around during the leaded gasoline period contains between 1.3 to 2.4 nanoliters per milligram more lead in their body than does the people after.
What if they
after
were
that was taken
fishermen?
away. It doesn't matter. You don't absorb enough lead through your skin.
No?
You know, that would be an asinine
Is it?
comparison. Yeah, it is actually. You know, so it's you got to look at all the contributing factors: lead in the water, lead in the environment. Like I'm talking about mercury levels, nitrates in Colorado. We had to raise. Since I was in the environmental industry, they raised the legal limits of nitrate compounds in water twice in Colorado, just so you could still drink the water that comes out of your tap, because we exceeded the legal limits twice in this state so far.
When you say
saying,
weed, okay, my water does not come from the same place that Denver's water comes from, nor does it come from the same place that Steamboat's water or Telluride's water. So you can't say stuff like that. Well, you can, okay, but it doesn't make it correct.
If you're a statistician,
A statistician,
Sorry.
you'd be like,
the
use
water
a
flows
general
in the aquifer
term
work.
that's like we.
What part of Colorado are you in?
What part of Colorado should I not be
Southern,
drinking the
northern,
water? Why don't you tell me that first? Since you're an expert on Colorado.
Basically anywhere. I live in eastern Colorado.
Okay.
I'm 120 miles. I'm 120 miles east
Okay.
of Denver.
So you get groundwater and you get all the runoff from the Denver Metro. Yeah?
so do
no,
you.
I don't. Sorry.
You might actually want to look into that. You
You
might actually
want to
want
look at the Palmer Divide? I'm pretty sure I don't.
I don't care how the water on the surface water runs. It's the aquifer that you're pumping the
My
water
water
out of,
is an
not the surface
aquifer.
water. Wait, it's pumping it out of a river?
Up over the Continental Divide into 3 to 4 different reservoirs and over. Now, technically, I do have I do have water rights, but my water is surface water rights, which is like 50 feet and above. But and I do have rights to run that into my house. Now, I do not. I would use it for irrigation, but no, my water comes straight off the mountains.
So all the toxins and all the contaminants and everything else that's in the snow melt is in your water.
Yeah, whatever's in the snow melt, absolutely.
Which includes a list of over 3,000 components.
If we wanted to have reverse osmosis to clean it up, we could, right?
Reverse osmosis only takes out 216.
Really? Why don't you talk to the semiconductor and pharmaceutical industry about that? I'm pretty sure I can get 99.99% pure water because I worked in the industry. I know it can be done. I know it.
But a household RO.
I don't care about household RO. I'm talking about city-based, municipality-based ROs.
And you still have toxins.
Not after that. Fuck no, you don't.
Go to the city of Brighton. They invested $1.7 billion in the water.
Doesn't mean they did it right.
With reverse osmosis.
Doesn't mean they did it right. Now, endotoxins actually are the hardest things to filter out. They're actually the drugs. They're actually one of the hardest things to filter out. But, that's why I live at First Source Water. Yeah, if you're in Louisiana at New Orleans, yeah, you got all kinds of fucking shit in your water. Every piece of aspirin, every Tylenol, every Advil everyone puts down their fucking toilet ends up in New Orleans. Yeah, that sucks.
Well, actually, it doesn't.
Well,
but,
it doesn't? Where does it end up?
It's only locally affected to a large point. There's stuff coming out of New York. By the time that water
wait! I said New Orleans.
Well, New Orleans is a cesspool, but it's from its own stuff. It's not everything else.
So if you drop a tablet in Minneapolis, if you drop a tablet of Advil, of acetaminophen, in your toilet in Minneapolis, where does it end up?
Well, it'd probably end up in Hudson Bay. Actually.
Dude, really? Get some education on geography. I don't even know how to talk to you.
The water doesn't. That aspirin is not going to make it all the way. That individual aspirin contaminant. By the time that water, you know how many times the water gets used before it ever gets to New Orleans from Minneapolis?
I would just like to take this break in the moment to remind everybody who is just tuned in that this is a show where we do not put each other down and we do not remind each other about what they should be looking into, because we approach every person as someone who has intellect and value. Thank you.